Thanks for tuning in. So this episode, it's not really an episode, it's a segment. I don't know. This video is being filmed at the family lake place, Door County. I don't know, you can probably hear the waves, can you? They're pretty close. So yeah, I'm here and it's exciting to be here, partly because I can wear clothes that are like busted, you know, like we have like a shabby chic thing going on here where like if we don't want to, you know, like if there's a paint splattered sweatshirt that's like fine except it has paint on it, it's just like, I don't know, take it to the house, right? And so then if you're feeling like you want to just lounge around and you don't care, you want to do work in the yard, you can put on the paint splattered sweatshirt and it's great. Okay, so I brought you out here, and the reason it's great to be at the lake house is because I can show you some things better than I could show you in my apartment in Chicago, some quilt related things of course. So there's a clothesline attached to this tree, and we're going to see that really soon because I've hung a quilt on this clothesline and we're going to get a great picture of it very soon. So I don't collect quilts officially. Quilts are a pain to collect. They take up a lot of room, they're very heavy, critters can like eat them. I don't really collect them, except I have this thing for quilts that were sort of mass-produced. Not super mass-produced, like quilts you might buy in the Land's End catalog. There's been times in American history when quilts have been produced on a large scale and not for very long by specific entities like the Smithsonian Institution, which I'll talk about if I haven't already, and this very interesting group in West Virginia in the 1970s. I can tell you that the Mountain Artisans were a group, and there's a book about this that I've ordered. I know I have a copy, but I have a lot of books in storage right now, so I don't know if it's there or if I don't have it. But there's a book on the Mountain Artisans that you can get. But I've known about this group for a while, and then when this quilt came into my life, I looked up a little bit more about them. So if you know about the Freedom Quilting Bee, this is a group that you had a group of people making things, making quilts in our case, just making them in their communities. And then at some point someone came along and said, you know, you could make money for your community if you like sold what you're making in a bigger space, like in a bigger market. And you know, there are good things about this, there are bad things about this. It gets into, you know, issues of exploitation. If someone who has come into their community saying you should sell these things and I'm going to take a cut, you know, this gets complicated, right? So absolutely noted. But the Freedom Quilting Bee, that's another story for another day. I talk a lot about that in one of my episodes of the show. But the Mountain Artisans were a group of women, a collective in the 1960, this is why I have it, 68, okay, in West Virginia. And it was a group of women who were organized, okay, by Florette Angel. Isn't that perfect? So Florette Angel worked for the Department of Commerce under President Johnson because he declared a war on poverty, okay, in like 1964. So like all over the country there were programs sort of like given funding to help people who were in poverty come out of poverty, do projects that would help them make money for their community. It did okay. It was in Charleston, West Virginia, and the group did okay, but then there were problems and these things are hard to get put together, whatever. So then, I don't know how she knew about this stuff, but Sharon Percy Rockefeller of the Rockefellers, Sharon, if you're watching, how's it going? Call me. Sharon Rockefeller took an interest in these women because I think Mr. Rockefeller, she was married to Mr. Rockefeller, the third, the fourth, the fifth, whatever. When I say that American quilt history teaches you about America, I'm not kidding. Anyway, so Rockefeller, Ms. Rockefeller, helped fund all this, and she was like working with this group, the Mountain Artisans in West Virginia, and she knew everybody, obviously Rockefeller, so she connected these women with the Parrish Hadley interior designer firm in New York, which if you learn about the Freedom Quilting Bee, you will learn about, she was involved in that as well. Diana Vreeland, the editor of Vogue, was buying Freedom Quilting Bee quilts and she was buying Mountain Artisan quilts. It's crazy. This is just a crazy story. The 70s, the 60s and 70s in quilt making in America, bananas, okay? So Rockefeller knew people at Neiman Marcus. And my neighbor, now we get into contemporary history, my neighbor Barbara, is a very fancy lady. She's a woman of a certain age, and she talks like this, and she's great. And she, you know, she worked at Neiman Marcus for a lot of years, and she was like a personal shopper. She owned her own clothing shop on Michigan Avenue, whatever. So she's fabulous. I love her very much. She's a really good friend of mine now. And she, when I told her about my quilt thing, she was like, well, I have a quilt. I have a quilt that I bought at Neiman Marcus. Would you like to see it? And I said yes. Let's take a look at the quilt. This is a Mountain Artisans quilt from, I'll put the year in here because I don't have Barbara's little thing that she gave me, but this is a quilt that was sold in Neiman Marcus in the 1970s, probably at this point. And this is the quilt that they sold in Neiman Marcus. And this was handmade by the people who were working in the Mountain Artisans Collective. And I learned that there were 160 people working full-time. And by the way, Eric, who's doing all the filming, my beautiful husband, if you could just sort of look around the quilts, kind of pan around, give me some detail shots, come in close. So this was handmade, you know, it was truly, it was not manufactured in a I almost said a forest, in a factory. These were people working, making money for their community, and selling these freaking quilts in Neiman Marcus. And Barbara told me, oh, I went to a trunk show and I loved it. And you know, it was Sharon Rockefeller. I mean, I think she knew her. I don't know. She has very nice hair, Barbara does. She gets it done all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I want to show you the tag on this quilt. Anyway, Barbara didn't necessarily want this anymore. Okay, I'm going to come behind. She didn't want it anymore. It was like in her cupboard. And she was like, I'll sell it to you. And I was like, done, you know, so we negotiated a price. It wasn't crazy expensive because these were mass produced, so they're out there, you know, but I really wanted it because if I collect any kinds of quilts, it's quilts like this. There's a million quilts that are, you know, one of a kind that have amazing stories. Obviously, I adore those quilts, but these, like, whenever quilts like enter the popular culture en masse like this, I'm very interested, like the Smithsonian quilts. So here, let's get a detail shot of the tag, all the Mountain Artisans objects, and they made skirts and they made pillows and they put out quilt kits and quilt kits and vests and jackets and things. And you can find some of these things on eBay. There are some even now. There's a dress I really want. It's so weird because of coronavirus. I have nowhere to go. But Mountain Artisans, check it out. The book that you can get, which is obviously out of print, but you can get it. There's a million copies out there. They have patterns, they have tutorials and stuff, but they have the history of the Mountain Artisans project. I think it's so amazing. Look at the back, it's so sweet. This little gingham, this little yellow gingham. So I brought it up to the lake house because this is the perfect place to show you some quilts that I love. And I have to say, this would look great. This would look great on the wall. It would. There's no room in our house, Eric, our apartment, for this quilt. It's a very odd shape. But one day when we have a large mansion, it'll be no problem. Anyway, thanks. Bye. Okay, film me running away.
Here, I can chase you.
Wait. This is why I love quilts, because you can wash them. Can you do this with a painting? No. Can you do it with a sculpture? No. Can you hide? Can you hide under a sculpture? No. I'm the sculpture. This is performance art. It's the 60s again. Let's go do some marshmallows or drink some more wine. Bye.